Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is Mr. Philippe Mazloumian. Mr. Philippe Mazloumian is well known as revenue, sales, and marketing consultant. He helped 500 brands and 100 entrepreneurs achieve their business goals. He worked with brands such as Honeywell, Microsoft, Cerner, Dubai Airports, Emar, Abot, Etisalat, Kia, Isuzu, just to name a few. Mr. Mazloumian is an award-winning sales and marketing consultant with a passion for consumer psychology and innovative business processes. He helps executives achieve their sales and marketing goals through process innovation and continuous optimization. Based in Dubai, UAE, he works with businesses across the globe to help executives define their goals and develop the revenue growth frameworks required to achieve their goals. Welcome, Mr. Mazloumian. It's a pleasure to have you on the program today, which is about how to increase and protect wealth during challenging economic times.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for the warm words for my introduction. I just hope we didn't put people to sleep yet. Hopefully we can wake them back up.
Mr. Mazloumian, just I want to start very important. First of all, is being poor a mindset and becoming rich is a mindset as well?
You know, it's a very philosophical question, and I think to give your audience the best service, rather than saying yes or no, I can really only speak from my perspective. And if I can just share a little story about why I personally do think it is a mindset issue. I remember, there was a point where my bank balance was zero. There's debt involved. I'm expecting my second child. Rent is overdue. The fridge is empty, and so on and so on. And really, unfortunately, it took this very painful, traumatic moment for something in my mind to snap, to crack. And it made me wake up to the fact that something has to change. And I didn't know how yet, but I knew something had to change. Whether you want to call it God or the universe or some divine power, within a couple of days, someone recommended a book to me. And I wasn't a particularly big reader, but I consumed that book as quickly as I could. And I can honestly say by the end of that book, I was a new person. My mindset had changed. Had I solved all my problems yet? No. But definitely my outlook on life was transformed. And I started seeing the world in a different way. And I started seeing my problems as opportunities for growth. But I'll tell you the book that it was. I'm sure some people will be interested to know. It was a book by an author called Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. And this is quite a well-recommended book on this subject, particular mindset. So I do highly recommend to people to pick that up. I don't have any business dealings with Tony Robbins, but it was a very powerful book for me. So yes, and then since then, I've seen a dramatic turnaround in many aspects of my life, from not just from a wealth standpoint or an income standpoint, but also from relationships, my own personal demons, health and fitness. Really it triggered my interest to learn. I felt like for many years I had a veil over my eyes and my mindset, but now it was kind of revealed, lifted. And it basically triggered the curiosity for learning. So I personally think that it is a mindset issue. However, I do know saying that it's not as easy to say it's purely a mindset issue, because at the end of the day, we also have to acknowledge luck or again, there are certain factors in the universe that are beyond our control or understanding. And, why should I be born into a middle-class family with the opportunities to get a good education and so on, versus someone that's born to a less fortunate circumstance? So I can't say it's purely due to mindset, but I do think it plays a very large role in it. And to find those opportunities and what you might perceive as being a negative circumstance, I think you can see the world a little bit differently if you wish to.
Amazing. So now mindset starting with the mindset, working on the mindset, something very, very important. And this is the book that maybe we'll dedicate in the future, special like episode discussing about Tony Robbins, Waking the Giant Within. Now I will move to another question, which is all about cash flow. All our life is measured with cash flow. And what advice do you give for cash flow, savings, and debt?
Yeah, cash flow is really something. It's the word that you hear a lot, especially if you're in the business environment. But a lot of people don't actually know what it means. And one of the best books that really describes it, because they actually show cash flow as a visual diagram, is probably a book that you know very well. It's by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And in that book, he very nicely demonstrates why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And you can, as an individual, design your cash flow to basically work with you and compound to grow your wealth, or the way that most of us, unfortunately, are brought up to leverage cash flow is to just generate spending beyond our means and going into debt. So maybe let's just touch on a little bit, what is cash flow? And I'll try to explain it from a layman perspective. And I hope I don't mean to patronize any followers or viewers right now, but just assuming that some people might not know. So basically, if you earn an income of any sort, whether you're a business owner or an employee, think of cash flow as the process or the steps of which you spend that income. And typically, just one tip, a lot of people, when they receive their salary, let's say, they immediately start going about paying off expenses, maybe their rent, their utilities, or there's some gadget they really want, and so on. And then, at the end, they look at their balance and they see that, there's not much money left to go towards savings. Yeah. Or maybe these people have purchased what are called as liabilities, maybe as a car, for example, and now every month they're committed to paying off this car, or a mortgage, for example. Every month they're paying off this mortgage. And basically you can say that this is creating a negative cash flow. Whereas if you were to flip the model around a little bit, so let's say again, we'll restart, you receive your salary, rather than paying everybody else first, you want to first focus on paying yourself. And there's another great book, it's called The Richest Man in Babylon. I believe it's by George Clason. I'm sorry if I've got his name wrong, but it's a great book just to also reinforce the principles of cash flow and how to pay yourself first before you start paying off other people. And then just one last point regarding cash flow. You really want to ensure that after you have paid yourself, you have to decide, okay, now that I've allocated some money aside here, what do I do with it? Do I just put it in a bank account? Or do I actively try to invest it in ways that will generate more cash flow independently of my labor, my time? And a simple example of that would be to say, invest in buying property, which you can then rent out. Because now you'll be then earning, an income from a job or from your business, plus you'll be earning income from, rent from that property. And this is really one of the main differences between the wealthy and people that are less wealthy, is the difference of how they allocate their income first. The wealthy will focus on allocating a good portion of their income to acquiring more cash flowing assets, such as properties, such as dividend paying stocks, such as investing in business ideas, and so on, like that. So really that is a major distinction. And once I started applying those principles to my personal finances, again, I quickly saw the growth or the turnaround in my financial circumstance. And yeah, and then that touches on something called the law of compounding, but I'll save that for another time.
Actually, this reminds me, today I received a call from an old friend of mine. His name is Ahmed Kahoun. We were like on an HR diploma training, and then I told him a story. Today he reminded me with this story. He said, Subhi, you told me before 10 years about your Indian friend who joined, whom you met. I met one friend, his name is Kumar, and I asked him, how are you? I know him since long time. He said, I became a manager. I said, how come you become a manager and get promoted? He said, you know the difference between me and others. Others, when they are getting extra promotion, increment, extra money, they are looking for a bigger flat, newer car, trying to increase the luxury in life. I invested my increment in MBA. So this MBA, this investment, get me another promotion, then another promotion, and then I become now a manager. My colleagues, we joined together, now they are reporting to me. So now this is like cash flow also, isn't it? When we are investing in education.
It's exactly that. It's just, you know, some people struggle to see education as a tangible investment because they're used to buying things that they can physically touch and interact with. But, you know, especially if well, it doesn't really matter if you're an employee or a business owner. Ultimately, people will pay you more if you are more valuable than your competition. And so investing in education ultimately increases your value. You know, before we started this call, I was speaking to your son and I was telling him if I could go back and give myself one piece of advice, just one piece, I wouldn't talk about any financial tricks or anything, any hot stocks or anything like this. I would just tell myself, please read for 30 minutes a day. You are smart enough to figure the rest out on your own. Just develop the habit of reading 30 minutes a day, invest in your knowledge. But yeah, ultimately bring it back to cash flow. It's really about how you allocate that income. And, you know, while you're young, you only have so many years to kind of mess around with money. And then it gets harder and harder as you get older and older. So yeah, I say to anybody that's just finishing university or so on, yeah, start educating yourself more than beyond just university or school, and be careful how you spend your money. Determine your priorities first. It will help you a lot later. I believe they call it delay gratification. Yeah, delay gratification.
So now we are talking about spending the time, investing the time with half an hour reading a day. And also you have another currency, which is the money. Actually, money is very sensitive emotion topic. The first question comes to our mind. Where does money come from?
You know, how many of us every day wake up stressing about money? Or if we receive, you know, a little bonus here and there, the joy that money can bring us when we go spend it on some item that we really want. But then when you ask people, what is money? Where does it come from? 99% of people have absolutely no clue. And it's just it boggles my mind. How can we spend so much time and effort focusing so much of our energy in our lives around this subject when we don't really understand what it is in the first place? So I think just to cut to the chase and actually tell people what money is, I think you have to distinguish between something that is valuable and then something that's used as a measure of, you know, a unit and of exchange and so on. So if you really go back in history, humans people believe that it was a form of bartering. We needed to barter to get things done, to build social communities and so on. And so we eventually determined that bartering was a bit inefficient, especially when it came to things like IOUs. And so we started moving towards finding items which basically said, listen, I'll give you 10 seashells as payment for now, which means later on I owe you a service to do, and so on. And so humanity experimented with a whole variety of things. If you look back in the history of money, it ranges from, again, seashells to fish bones to slabs of rocks. It is very diverse, but ultimately, in the last 5,000 years, humans or civilizations settled on metals, precious metals. And if you look at the periodic table, there's really only a few metals that are that meet a certain amount of criteria in order to make them suitable to be what is now known as money. I'm not very good at chemistry, so I'm not going to go into that, but there's plenty of content online for people to determine. But yeah, basically, initially metals were used and they took the form of coins. And then over time, paper money was introduced just to add a bit more versatility and freedom in terms of transactions. But that leads us down a dangerous path in terms of what is real money. Is paper currency today really considered money, or just precious metals? And so yeah, it's a very fascinating subject, and I do recommend that people understand it a little bit more. But I would say to people that what you have in your hand as currency, or the digits that you have in your bank account, I would not completely say that those are entirely money. I would say that it's currency, and there is a big difference there. And really, it's about what do people value, and that can take any shape or form. But one of the things that have stood the test of time as money is precious metals such as gold and silver historically. Currencies, fiat currencies, have ultimately failed over the last 5,000 years in every civilization that's tried to deploy them. But what has stood the test of time so far is precious metals such as gold and silver.
So here, we come to another question. So many people, they have their end of service benefits after long years of working, and people who are having years, they are having their wealth, and then their wealth will be evaporated without noticing how they lost their money and the value of their currency, we can say.
Mm-hmm.
So now, especially now, we are moving, always we have uncertainties in the economy. So during economic uncertainties, what advice do you give to protect our lifetime savings?
Yeah, with this, I actually would say take out the economic uncertainty, and I would say don't let that really be an influence. Just assume that there's always economic uncertainty, because in matter of fact, there is. The economy moves in cycles up and down. And so that state is always there. We're always on this roller coaster of up and down. And so really what you want to do is develop a financial plan that protects your wealth to profit no matter whether the cycle is up or down. And I think this is such a broad question, if I could maybe just touch on the concept of diversification. I don't think that it's fair to say that there's any one silver bullet or one tactic that will protect your wealth over time. But I will just shoot off a few ideas, and I'll, rather than telling your viewers this is what you should do, I would tell you what I like to do, and people can do their own research further and see if that's right for them. But everybody's financial situation is different. Everybody has different financial goals. But effectively, if I earn a currency, we have to look at what currency are we earning. So you have traditionally more stable currencies, or currencies that people value as a safe haven. So you can look at, say, the US dollar, for example, or the Japanese yen or the euro. But then you have obviously local currencies which are a bit more volatile. Unfortunately, we're having a tremendous crisis in Lebanon. Inflation is running rampant in Turkey, and so on. So with that being said, you have to look at the currency, and if you're not able to convert your local currency into one of the safer, or one of the more stable currencies, that's where you might have to start being a little bit more creative in how to diversify your wealth. And that's where you might want to look at just real tangible assets. And so I personally believe you can't go wrong with things like land, property, and precious metals such as gold and silver. Or if you're really savvy, look at commodities which are currently undervalued at this time, and that maybe in the next year or two, demand for those items will go up. But yeah, really for me, it's about taking your currency that you earn and trying to diversify it in a variety of different ways, because no one can sit here confidently and tell you what the future is going to bring. And therefore, the best thing you can do is just kind of have multiple baskets with your eggs spread across, so that if there is to be a calamity on one side, you're not all the baskets are, and not all the eggs are destroyed in one shot. Just trying to think if there's some other key points. I would also, just touching back on precious metals. A lot of people think silver and gold, if you try to explain to them the value of purchasing these, people think you're crazy. But you know, if you live in a region where the currency has a history of being very volatile, investing in precious metals such as silver and gold can be one of the best things you can do to preserve your wealth. I remember a gentleman, a Lebanese gentleman, explaining to me how their family wealth was destroyed in the Civil War. And originally their father was a wealthy businessman, and he had saved all his business's wealth. You know, he deposited it into a local Lebanese bank. The war started, and everybody assumed that the war would end in a few weeks, and a few weeks turned into a few years. Anyway, long story short, eventually the father went back to the bank to try and take his money out after the war had ended. And by that point, the currency had been devastated, and inflation had run rampant and so on. And the bank gave him $100 bill. And he said, "What? This is it?" I says, "Yes." And now that family makes sure to invest a portion of their wealth in precious metals, because historically they stand the test of time much better than fiat currencies do. So again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have any fiat currency. It's all part of that diversification basket. But you should look at other forms, other tangible assets where you can store your money to stand the test of time.
Excellent. So just to recap, now we started talking about the mindset, and we say to become rich is something in our mindset. If we decide to become rich, we will search for the source of knowledge, how to become rich, more income, how to become rich. Then we move to another thing, our cash flow management, where we are keeping always saving, little saving from our regular cash flow. These savings need to now to save them, to protect them. Protecting them, it can be done by diversification. We are not putting all the eggs in one basket. Something on, as you mentioned, with metals, gold or silver, and others can be on land or can be on properties. So these things will allow us to go step by step towards becoming a rich and to protecting our wealth and to increasing our wealth as at the same time. Now, suppose we have some wealthy people and they are working with us. Regarding the responsibility of wealth, is there a moral responsibility to wealth, and what is the best way to pass on money?
You know, I speak from personal experience with this one. I think that's the safest thing I can do. I don't want to bias or push anybody down the wrong path. But any time in my life where I've struggled for a particular thing, you know, it doesn't just have to be money. I know when I did a good deed, I was randomly surprised with the universe returning the favor in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. And so I do believe, you know, whether you want to call it karma or whatnot, I do believe there is some function where we as individuals should do our best to help others. But that, again, you have to ask yourself, you know, am I just giving a man a fish, or am I teaching that man how to fish so that they can continuously feed themselves thereafter? And I'm much more of a person that prefers to teach people how to fish rather than simply giving them fish. And so, I mean, just to bring it in terms of a charitable context that everybody understands, donating money, for example. I'm fine. So obviously, I actually allocate 10% of my monthly income to charitable endeavors. I'm not saying that to score any brownie points, but I say that because I know it's an important part of seeing your own wealth grow. You know, I personally believe money is energy, and if you receive that money and then you kind of store it up like a dam, it's eventually going to have to flow around you, if that makes sense. So it's better to allow that money. If you're going to earn more money, you know, make sure you pass on the favor and hand some down. But you can see that your charitable contributions go towards maybe facilities that actually improve education, for example. So whenever I give to charity, I try to invest in schooling facilities, so that I know that we're really solving the long-term problem and not just fixing the short-term need, because I know ultimately that's not really, you're just going to create a dependent society, which is not best for those people. It's not best for us. Really what we want to do is improve education, improve people's productivity, allow them to achieve their full potential. And I think that's, at least in my personal view, I think that's the best thing you can do. But yes, start small. I wouldn't suggest everybody go straight and give away 10% of their income, especially if they're already tight. But just a small amount, because no matter how bad your situation might be, there's always somebody in a worse state. And it can be just giving money to your family member that you can see is in a bad spot, or it could be, as I said, giving it to a charity that focuses on educational facilities or whatnot. But yeah, I do agree, or I do believe that people should incorporate it in their spending habits. There was a fantastic, again, Tony Robbins, his mentor was a man called Jim Rohn. And he was saying that if you would struggle to give 10% of a dollar, you're going to really struggle when you're earning $1 million and you have to give $100,000 away. So start small, get into the habit whilst your income is small, so that it's easier for you when your income all of a sudden is much larger.
Absolutely, absolutely. Excellent. So now sharing responsibilities with the poor, and instead of giving them fish, we are teaching them how to fish. It is marvelous. And also we train ourselves like case and concept. Everything small and consistent, better than doing something one time and stopping. I received a question from Miss Monenel. She said, a friend of mine have been collecting Lego. Is this the same as gold or silver?
Lego.
Lego.
You know what? It might not sound as crazy as you might think. If there was ever to be a time where money was to fall apart, maybe Lego would be a great alternative, especially if there were lots of children that wanted toys to play with. Then yes, Lego would be very valuable. No, but ultimately, yeah, I personally believe you want to invest in tangible assets. I know a lot of people invest in the stock market or index funds, or they purchase bonds and this kind of thing. But I'm a little bit of a worst case scenario kind of guy, and I like things that I can actually tangibly see and touch and feel, and I can see the value in them. So yeah, I would recommend what I said earlier: land, because there's so many things you can do with land. Properties, again, maybe not so much commercial property at this time, but again, if you buy low, it could be a good investment for the future if things turn around. And yeah, precious metals such as silver and gold. But don't overdo it. Don't be too heavily weighted on one particular area. Try to be diverse as possible.
May I ask about like investing in gold and silver? Do you mean like actual gold, tangible one, or online investment on gold, where like brokerage houses and the like?
Very good question. So I would say at first you want to make sure that you have a tangible amount of gold and silver somewhere, which you can, in an unfortunate situation, you can actually reach. A lot of people say to me, okay, if I'm going to buy gold and silver, should I go deposit it in a bank in a safe deposit box and so on? I think initially, as you start building up your stack, is what people say, I would say no, do not go put it in a bank. There's many times in history where people's deposits, they go to the bank and the banks shut their doors completely because of a broader situation where many people are running on the bank. I believe, for example, that has happened recently in Lebanon. Or another example, in Greece in 2015, people were only allowed to withdraw a certain amount of money from ATMs and so on. So I would say keep maybe 10% of your wealth in precious metals, and keep a certain percentage of that actually within or nearby where you live, so you can access it easily. Once you've accumulated that amount, again, it's about diversification. If you put all of your precious metals within your home, if there was to be a calamity such as a fire or a burglary or something like this, again, you will probably see a lot of your wealth disappear. So in those situations, then maybe it's safe to start thinking about, okay, I'll put a little bit in a safe deposit box. There's also options where you can buy and store your precious metals around the world in vaults, specifically for that provide those services and keep your precious metals safe. Once you have a sufficient amount of physical precious metals, you can also start looking at investing in shares of miners. That's a good place. A lot of people talk about investing in ETFs, gold and precious metal ETFs, which are exchange traded funds. I would suggest this only from more of a shorter term trading perspective. If you need something that's highly liquid so that you can go in, you see the price is low today for gold or silver, and you want to make a quick dollar. You can go and buy low, and then after a few days or whatever it be, when it's a bit higher, you can sell. Then but I would not put that's your I hate to say it, your gambling money. That's money that you're prepared, if it was to be lost, it would not dent your overall financial situation. So yeah, in that sense, you can maybe, but overall, if you're talking about preserving your wealth, I would keep it tangible and accessible. There was a funny story. I keep rambling, but there was a funny story that I read. There's a great author. His name is Jim Rickards. He is a financial analyst who's ex-CIA, and he's got a number of books. I highly recommend people go read them. And anyway, he would have meetings with these wealthy investment bankers who were digging caves in places far afield like New Zealand and building bunkers and, hiring security guards and all this kind of stuff. And he was saying to them, that's great. You have the money to be able to build these fancy facilities to protect yourself and your family if the world was to end tomorrow. But you live in New York City. If that was really to happen, how on earth do you think you're going to get a plane to fly you all the way down to New Zealand? And recently, as we saw with the recent pandemic, that's a case in point. People, no matter how wealthy you were, you were not able to travel. So you do need to have a portion of that wealth accessible, close to where you live.
Excellent. Today you've been giving me some advice if to buy precious metal, gold or silver. There's something to pay attention to, like the certificate and other things.
Yeah, I think I'll just touch on. So when you invest with precious metals, really with the physical tangible metals, you can buy investment bars, or you can buy coins. Yeah, and coins and the bar, they're made by refineries and mints all around the world, and they come in different brands and so on. Now, generally, if you are to buy coins, silver or gold coins, you're going to be paying more for those, because there's a larger, what's called a premium on top of them. Yeah, and also it might not always make sense to buy coins. They usually cost a little bit more, but if you are in a country where those coins, especially if they're minted locally by your government, if the coins are not recognizable by people within your land, it can make things a little bit difficult in terms of trading them and selling them and so on. So in that sense, the investment bars are usually a little bit more neutral, a little bit safer. But I would suggest that you focus not just on the buying of the metal. If you eventually want to sell these metals for a profit in the future, you have to take into consideration, what does your buyer want at the other end? And what they would like to see with bars especially is certificates of authentication. And so when you buy investment bars, you should ask for the certificate, especially when you're going up to the half kg and 1 kg denominations. You should ask for the certificates of manufacture of these bars. And there's a brand called PAMP, which is from Switzerland. They're a very highly respected manufacturer of gold and precious metal products. And they actually have a very cool app which you can download onto your phone. And for certain sizes, or I believe the 1 ounce size, you can actually use the app and take photos of the front and back. And the app scans the texture of the bar, and every bar is unique. And it also matches it to a barcode that's on the packaging, and it will tell you whether or not that bar that you're buying is genuine. But really, the best thing you can do is research who you're buying from. If you've got a friend of a friend, be a little bit cautious about that, and try to buy from reputable dealers that have, authorized distribution channels for these products. And they're there, you just ask around and you'll see. If you live in Dubai, it's one of the best countries to acquire precious metals, such as gold and silver. So some of the smallest margins on top of the spot price for acquiring these. So it's quite fortunate for people like myself who live here.
We received a question saying, what about collectible cars or planes? Does that count as an investment?
Yes, very much so. But I have to profess I'm not I don't personally invest in those areas, so I'm not the best person to give you advice on that. But certainly from the books that I've read, people have invested in those areas and have protected their wealth through a variety of situations as a result. But I think that is maybe depending on your financial situation. If you're kind of starting out, you don't have too much wealth to invest, I wouldn't jump to maybe that step. I think there are simpler things that you can do and which are more affordable, which are less risky also, that can protect your wealth and also appreciate in value as time passes by. But certainly, if you know what you're looking for in terms of art and collectible cars and other tangible assets like that, or collector's items, yes, I think you can do very well in that space. But the key thing is diversify. Don't put all your eggs in art.
I have two questions, the same question, saying, what about diamonds, sealed ones?
Very good. So diamonds, yes, some of the world's most infamous criminals, when they've been caught red-handed trying to travel between countries, are usually carrying a bag of diamonds. But the problem with diamonds is their standardization. So every diamond is slightly different in its value, whereas an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold. A kilogram of silver is a kilogram of silver. It's much easier to standardize precious metals. But that doesn't mean that there isn't any value to diamonds. But I think in terms of selling, if you invest in precious metals, ultimately it'll be easier to sell those metals at a later date than maybe with diamonds, and be more accurate in terms of what you're going to get when it does come time to sell.
Oh, thank you so much. Actually, I'm receiving some messages on WhatsApp. They are trying to log in, but they're facing some difficulty. So I will tell them, don't worry, the episode will be recorded on Facebook and also on YouTube. I will share with you the link. And also in the end of this meeting, we will share with you also the contact of Mr. Philip. So you can like in the future ask him whatever you want. And now, Philip, you advise us to go for half an hour reading every day and to change our mindset to the rich mindset. Are there any resources or even advice that will help people learn more about these topics?
Yeah, there are many, and I have a couple prepared. The first one I would like people to understand is going back to that first question, or the second question you asked me: what is money? Where does it come from? Why is money valuable? Why can one currency lose its value in the space of a year, while others are the backbone of modern society for 100 years, and so on? And there is a chap called Mike Maloney, and he's got a fantastic YouTube series called The Hidden Secrets of Money. I think it's about 7 or 10 episodes, really informative, educational, interesting episodes. I highly recommend that everybody go watch those. And he explains in much greater detail than I can about the history of money, where we are today, and where we're moving forward, especially in terms of fiat currencies, and how you can protect your wealth. So I do recommend, if you're not a big reader, to hop on and watch that that series. That is a must. I would also say that you need to understand also economics. A lot of people focus on the psychology of individuals and others, and that is very important. I'm not taking anything away from that. And a lot of people study business, especially in terms of operations, marketing, sales, accounting, and so on. Again, very important. I'm not taking anything away from it. But what a lot of people seem to skip on is the field of economics. A lot of people don't understand that a business, or even themselves, they can consider themselves, a boat in the ocean of economy, which is basically a sea of other businesses, people, government institutions, and so on. And basically, a rising tide lifts all boats, and a receding tide has the opposite effect. And if you do not understand what are the factors that cause that tide to go up and down, and in this case, it's the factors of of an economy, you will not be able to really see what is coming. For example, I don't have the most positive outlook about the current state of global affairs that we're in right now, and I think we're in for actually greater economic challenges in the next year or two, especially with what's happening with the US dollar. So I suggest to people, start learning about the field of economics. You need to know the rules of supply and demand. There are many other important factors, but once you start understanding the field of economics, everything will start coming together much more clearly, not just about your work or your business, but also your personal finances. I highly, highly recommend, if you are concerned about generating wealth and protecting that wealth, you must make studying economics. And there's a gentleman called Milton Friedman. Unfortunately, he's no longer on this planet, but he absolutely mind-blowing economist. And he made a series. It's from the 1970s, so it's a little old now, but the content is still as relevant today as it was back in the 1970s. And in fact, in some ways, it's come full circle, because a factor of what he talks about is inflation. And especially with what's happening to some countries in the region, inflation is such a hot topic because it's impacting so many people's lives. I highly recommend to go on YouTube, type in Milton Friedman, and search for his series called Free to Choose. It's a 10 episode series, touches on major points of economics, and it all to do with wealth and social programs and all these kind of things. And it really will open your eyes to modern day affairs, and I think it will add a lot of value to everybody that watches it.
Actually, I have a friend in the state. He sent me the link, and I added now in the comment for the first one, Hidden Secrets of Money.
Okay, so that's Mike Maloney. Yeah, that's
And now also I received the link for the Mr. Friedman, and I did also as in the comments.
Fantastic.
So now, thank you so much for these important resources, and I will add to them also what you mentioned in the beginning. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, these books, and From Good to Great for Jim Collins. Already you've been telling my son to go through it and read it every day, half an hour. So investing in our mindset, investing in our brain is something very, very lucrative investment. I received a message requesting having Arabic subtitling for this episode, and I promise that we'll do our best to make it very soon, so everything can be shared with our Arab community. Now, everybody will be asking now, how can listeners get in touch with you? So while you are answering, allow me also to share your website, so they will listen to your voice. Sure. At the same time, they will see your website.
Sure, understood. So I have my website. It's basically myname.com. And I have a blog, and I also have a recommended reading section where I list a lot more books that I feel are very powerful regarding this overall subject. But yeah, I regularly release blogs on a variety of different subjects, from personal wealth to revenue development and profits growth and so on. But yeah, if you would like to have a call with me, you can schedule a complimentary call. There's a big gold button there, and I'll gladly, advise you where I can. But yeah, I ultimately provide consultancy services. So if that would be of any value to you, we can explore that more. But by all means, this is my website. Please visit it. And it would be great if you could subscribe to my blog, and we can stay in touch. And hopefully I can share some of the tools and tips and wisdom that I learn along the way. As I mentioned, I'm a big reader. I try to go through 5 to 10 books a month if I can. And sometimes a concept that I've learned is so powerful that I have to jump on and write about it and share it with others. So whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But yeah, please visit the site and subscribe to the blog if you can.
So just to take our viewers, just go to philipmazloumian.com, and there you can go to the blog. I have very, very interesting blogs about money, about so many very interesting things in life. Don't waste this chance. Once you go to the blog and you click on it, you have an option to subscribe to the newsletter or to the future to Philip's journal, very interesting one. And also you can book a call, in the upper right corner in the gold button, book a call. Once you click on it, also you can leave your contacts and you can book an appointment with Philip, and he's offering free consultation. It's so nice of you. Thank you so much, Philip.
No problem. Absolutely no problem.
And like all the people here in Dubai, they know Mr. Mazloumian very well. So now you'll join. You have the chance to be to check, to ask advice, which is something very, very valuable. Now, I don't know if you have any other questions left. Yes, I received a message. I'm trying to read it. It is from a famous doctor and professor, Dr. Fawaz Zaharour. He is asking, does being a poor or a rich have anything to do with the type of governance? I mean, most people in socialistic countries have very limited financial and even non-financial resources, whereas in capitalist or free economy countries, the case is totally different.
Very, very interesting question. And I have my own views on that. But I think I have to be careful what I say. But I would suggest, if you are interested in this, I really stress, please go watch Milton Friedman's series, Free to Choose. It touches on these subjects. But I mean, I personally, I do believe in that concept, free to choose, and this what we call a libertarian format of thinking. And I am concerned with socialist governments, but I understand how they come about. But ultimately, I don't think they're the long-term solution to the challenges that people face. We just have to look through history to see that. But again, I don't want to go down that path too much. But what I would like to say at the end of this is, I have my views, I have my opinions, I've done my reading and my research, and I've applied certain things in my life. Some have worked, some haven't, and I like to share those thoughts. But ultimately, if there's one thing that people can take away from this, is you've got to expand your own knowledge. And you've got to read. And I really think reading is such a key, powerful thing to do. And from there, whatever challenge that you might be facing as an individual, you'll be able to solve as a result, because many humans have come before you and they've experienced similar challenges and they've overcome them. And then they wanted to give back to society by sharing that knowledge. And so I think one of the best things you can do, no matter whether you're a socialist mindset or a capitalist mindset or a libertarian mindset, is to obviously improve your own knowledge and try to share that knowledge with others without forcing them to consume it, but just guide them, nudge them if possible, and hopefully they can take it up from there. But frankly, I think that's all we can really that's all we can expect of anybody. Just improve your own knowledge and try to pass that knowledge on to others.
So now we are reaching to the end of this beautiful journey. Thank you so much, Philip, for giving us the time, sharing with us your thoughts, your wisdom, showing us the way how to change our mindset, what to read, how to save money, how to invest in our money, how to diversify our money, and how to keep 10% of our money for the needy and for the people. And when we give them this 10%, we are teaching them how to fish. We are not giving them the fish. So many valuable thoughts, so many great ideas. I'm sure that people will be watching this meetings 2 times and 3 times. I'm sure one day you'll meet like people coming to you, thanking you because your ideas changing lives for better, which is something we need a lot in this part of the world. Thanks a lot for your time, for these ideas, and we hope we'll have another meetings in the future.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. And if your viewers enjoyed it, it would be a pleasure to come back. Maybe we can break it down into, because obviously we talked about a very broad subject or a series of subjects today. Maybe we can break it down into smaller chunks. But yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And all the best to your viewers. We're in trying times now. I understand that. But yeah, pick up those books where you can. And all the best to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you.